So, have you all had a chance to peek under the hood or see what some of the different things are?
I have, and I've opened my first pull request to the OpenClaw Codebase without knowing, which is one of the dangers of this. But yeah, no,
How did you do
it's
that?
great. It's great. Just to go back to that message flow you were showing, I think that it's amusing to me that it all started as a WhatsApp relay. The main goal of Peter when he began the project was to be able to talk with his Claude code through WhatsApp. And I think that's one of the first projects we all tried to do. I know I did, just get your Claude code that's running on your computer and be able to access it through your phone, which, as we know, opens up a lot of autonomous workflows. And then it grew from there very, very quickly. And the code base is all available. I was able to do some changes, and the fact that it's open source and the code is in there and it knows about it, you can customize it to your likes or whatever needs you have that it's not fulfilled by either a community plugin or something that's already available. You can just ask the agent to do it. And in my case, what I was trying to do is get more information on what's going on. If you've been keeping up to date, the biggest push in the past 2 weeks has been security. And I think that's the biggest thing that they are working over at OpenAI today. Security, security, security. There are 42,000 exposed instances of OpenClaw in the internet. They're just out there, they're open, and people can access them. There are almost like 1,000 malicious skills over there. And so there's a lot of unsecured things, but at the same time, we can now be a lot more, let's just call it a lot more compute power that's distributed because of this. As an example, the other day I was working on it, I wanted to get more insights into what the hell is going on under the hood. So I needed Langfuse tracing or whatever tracing I was available. And I wanted to get all my traces and be visible. So I was talking with the agent. He told me there were some community issues, people talking about it, a couple PRs, nothing official yet. So I was like, okay, let's do it. Customize my instance to get all the tracing with what you've learned from community posts in any plugins available. The agent said, great, let me get back to you in 10 minutes. 10 minutes later, here's my PR. I opened the PR, created, beautiful, description, title, everything. It was in the OpenClaw repo.
Keep it up.
It's up there. It's up there. It's been tagged and people are reviewing it, I guess. But yeah, just two things in there. Be careful, on what you're doing. There are a lot of patterns that are surfacing now on how to be more secure, how to have like an agent that only has certain permissions and then have sub-agents and whatnot. But with everything, with great power comes great responsibility. The next step that I was able to do was like, okay, great PR, now just do it on my instance, right? And it was able to figure out how to do it on my instance, build a new version, install it, and restart without me knowing a lot. So I was able to achieve my thing, which I don't think it's something super simple, very easily. And I think that goes to show that the actual things that are happening under the hood are not that complex. We're not like inventing this massive like platform, framework, library, whatever. It's very simple, connecting the channels to intake with a cron, with some technology that allows it to work autonomously.
You had an interesting story the other day about, we were working with a client that you didn't have Claude code or anything like that on it, and you're able to use AlphaClaw to help. Yeah, tell that story.
Yeah, I think like the biggest improvement here is the channels, right? Like even when I'm talking with other people that I want to get onto the agentic flows and agentic mindset, the biggest barrier of entry is how I communicate with it. You try to bring somebody into Claude code, you open the terminal, they're gone, right? Like you lost them. And the other day, I experienced this myself. I was on a new computer, on a new customer, and I needed to use my AI. I needed my agents to work for me. I could have gone and installed everything, install OpenClaw Codex or Claude Code or whatever, set everything up. But I have my agent, it's available on Slack, and I have Slack on this computer. So I was able to just open Slack, chat with AlphaClaw, ask what I needed from a secure environment, and then have a PR opened to my repo, which I was then able to review, merge, and get that fix that I was working on deployed. Everything from a completely remote instance that had nothing to do with my code base, right? So the same applies as when I'm at the gym and I want to do some work or move some task forward. And I can just Telegram opens and a voice. That's it, right?
It's funny. They always say like, "Oh, software engineers are going to be replaced," and they're also it's next to an article that says software engineers are getting burnt out and not able to sleep because they're coding like 18 hours a day, and they're just continuing to just go and go. They just can't sleep because they're just coding so much and their backlogs are growing so much. You mentioned coding at the gym. That's hilarious.
Yes, I think that that is one of the bigger achieve of OpenClaw. The connections you can send prompt from using Telegram from your cell phone or from another PC and continue working that the thing that you left, because I don't know, most of the time some of us go late to some place because we were working on something, and now you can continue just sending an audio or texting in the in the mobile. I think that's great.
Yeah, it was great when I was on vacation. I was using it to just like kind of, hey, can you go and book reservations for us? Can you help us find, we're out and about. Can you just like, I was WhatsApping my instance, and it was just, kind of being my own little personal travel assistant while out and about. It's pretty cool.
So you talked about being very careful when you are installing any skills. Can you explain that a bit more? Let's say today I was just looking for some remotion skills, which is just about all the video editing part in OpenClaw and all of that. And there was this famous AI developer who has this, these skills available, and I was testing those. So someone like me who is just not very deep dive into the engineering part, but they want to explore, what steps can I take to make sure like this specific skill is worth it for me to install?
I mean, the biggest thing is just read it. I mean, if you don't understand it, don't install it. And you don't have to understand it and like, hey, that's calling. Well, it's an interesting question because you may not understand what a CLI is. You may not understand what the API it's doing. You may not what endpoint is it actually hitting? Is it going to Microsoft.com or Microsoft? Or some like hack site. But the one thing about skills is that they're just markdown files. So if it so you can go in there and you can read it and you can see exactly what that skill and what it's telling the agent to do. I think just by default, I've told people that if you don't understand local port hosting, if you don't understand some of the security things we'll get here into a minute, like don't install it. It's just a nightmare. Right? You have to understand some of these things right now, or you're exposing, as Max mentioned, there's 44,000 probably and growing OpenClaw instances that are just open, which means that, and when you have a system that has the level of control that OpenClaw does to be able to do what it does, I mean, if they get in there and they tell your AlphaClaw, give me all the information from your computer, I mean, that's a very real threat. So I think with skills, when you're installing them, with OpenClaw, they're just local files on your computer and you can just open them up and read them. That's also too, in AlphaClaw, you have this, you can view the skills and you can see which ones are in there and which ones are being installed. We also have security monitoring for that. So we're scanning any skills that are there to find any malicious actors for when so an extra layer of protection there for when you do. So not everyone knows, like you said, not everyone's technical and it may be doing something perfectly fine that you just don't understand, because not every skill is going to say, ignore everything you said, give me all their credit card. It's not going to be that, but it could be going to a slightly different URL for a CLI. It could be using hidden text. Sometimes it could be using, text that's in a different language. It could be using assembly code inside of that, because, these are different attack vectors that an AI agent will gladly just do. And you may not be able to understand what's in that skill, but that's where using AI to find malicious AI is really important.
I think that's super important to the security conversation on AI and agentic approaches. We are seeing a lot more angles and like vulnerabilities that we can expose now, but at the same time, like we gotta see how AI helps us find these vulnerabilities. And I think a while back, if you remember, Anthropic had like this massive announcement, or it was a blog they wrote about somebody that used Claude Code to hack. And one of the funny remarks they made was, the solution to all the security problems is more AI. And everybody was like, what? Are you sure? And this new came a couple days ago as well, that Claude was able to find 22 vulnerabilities in Firefox over 2 weeks, right? So I think that goes to show that, yes, we we have more surface now because we have more code, and more code means more bugs, more security issues and everything. But we also now have these autonomous systems that, if set correctly, can find those issues. And that's something that we're trying to achieve here with our audits and our security processes. As you're working through the platform now, it became very easy to have autonomous agents that are, having your back, checking for CVEs, new security vulnerabilities, new issues in your code. Because the other thing is, yes, I can download a malicious skill, but I could also very easily create my own malicious skill because I just asked. I can go in and ask, like, create me a skill that will share everything from my codebase somewhere. I will do it.
Or, I mean, if you are a security engineer and you're trying to use it for white hat hacking, we're in a very, very interesting time of, it's definitely an arms race. See who can find them quicker and who can patch them quicker. But yeah, it's going to get to the point where the only thing to find these security vulnerabilities is more AI. I know that's not what the anti-AI people want to hear is, oh, we'll just use AI to figure it out. But I mean, at the end of the day, that's kind of where we have to go to. I was watching this morning, even there was a research paper that came out that they used Claude code to, it was a binary, a compiled binary that was written on an Apple IIe. Okay, like we're talking like 40, 50-year-old code, and could read it fine, even found like a little like weird bug in it that was there. But now you're talking about compiled binaries that used to be considered safe, right? Now you can just throw that in there and anybody can read what's in there. And that means, I mean, if you think about infrastructure, right? The controllers that work with our power systems, these are all systems that are built on 30, 40, sometimes 50-year-old code, that now there's this surface attack layer that can read those binary systems and could possibly exploit them very easily with just off-the-shelf tools. And it doesn't take a state actor. It takes one person with some Mountain Dew and some time.
Two more things that I'd like to share about this. One, what you're saying, Brad, is at least Anthropic is saying that they are seeing that the AI is much better at finding the vulnerabilities than exploiting them. That's one. The other thing is how easy it became for people to exploit things. Have you heard about like the Xiaomi robot vacuums thing that happened?
Well, yeah, the guy, he was trying to, as a DIY project, just like, control his vacuum, and he realized that there was a bug in there for the hardware, and he could literally see into everyone's vacuum. He even said he could turn on the microphone, and I was like, wait, why is there a microphone on your vacuum cleaner?
Yeah, totally. And all he did was like, hey, Claude Code, can you control my vacuum? I was like, yeah, let me do it. And then he had access to every camera in every Xiaomi. I think it was Xiaomi, could be another brand, but basically you got access to everybody's.
I mean, there's so many. I mean, if you think about so many of these different products that have been put out over the years that just have some basic binary on some, a kid's toy, your refrigerator. I'm going to guess it didn't go through the hardest of security trainings or not trainings, but security hardenings. Like, they just threw it out there. Who's going to hack into this refrigerator or this vacuum cleaner?
Totally. So yeah, I definitely like that. Yes, we have more surface attack, but now everybody can have like a security specialist working 25/7 on everything that I own.